Welcome to Everyday Elephants. I'm your host, Tanner Olson. In a minute, I'll be joined by Phil, Katie, and Ted. Everyday Elephants is a podcast that discusses what the world is discussing. And right now, the world is discussing a lot of things. Here, we take a close look at the elephants in the room, everything from politics to trends to religion. Together, we look for where hope is in the midst of the change and the chaos and confusion. Welcome to Everyday Elephants. Well. It has been a while, friends.
It has.
We are back
and ready.
We had a 2-week break, a 2-Monday break, and a lot has happened since then. There's Christmas. We started a new year, and Phil had a birthday.
I did.
Whoop, whoop.
The question is the world discussing or is the world disgusting, Tanner? Like, cause
yes, I did a little slip up there, but did I?
I know it was actually well played. So I was pretty proud of you. It's like that's loaded, but has a lot of meaning right there. So yeah,
it's a very Eminem like in lyrics, but I don't want to take any credit. So
you're a pure genius. That's all.
Well, it's good to be back though. The last couple of Mondays felt a little bit little meh without seeing y'all's faces and being able to talk about what's happened in the world. So let's do a little catch up with each other, shall we? Katie, what's happening down in South Florida? What's happening down there?
So South Florida, I mean, Christmas happened, New Year's happened. Over here, a lot of family stuff. I think pretty typical for what a lot of people are doing right now. And today was my first day back to work since being off for 2 weeks. So it's been like everything all at once, so it's super great being back. But I did love my break. Me and my husband, we went hunting, a lot of cool things on my break. No, unfortunately, we didn't really see much.
So you went
but
looking.
It was nice. We went looking. Yeah.
What were you hunting?
Deer.
Oh,
we did see some turkey though, so that was pretty cool. We saw a lot of turkey. Cool. So got to get outside. So it's been great.
Nice. What do you do the whole time, Katie? Are you hunting as well, or are you just kind of like there for the good times?
Oh no, I'm there. I'm there sitting really still up in a tree stand, Phil, at 30 degree weather in Alabama. So it's there.
And how many weeks pregnant in the tree stand?
Yeah, 25 weeks pregnant.
See, here's the thing. Yeah. I think you get an award.
Give her a medal. Seriously.
Saying.
At 30 degrees and that pregnant, I mean, I'm impressed. I'm just straight impressed.
Listen, I don't deny, I do think I should get an award because this is not my hobby. This is this is wife duties right here, so that's, I agree. Yeah.
I hope you got flowers and or Starbucks and or jewelry and or books, whatever your preference is. I hope there was some kind of thank you for coming with me, wife. Here is a show of my love for you.
Yes, I got time to sleep. That was amazing.
Hey,
that's all I wanted.
That keeps on giving. So
that's what I wanted. Yes. How are you guys doing? Oh, what was that, Tanner? Sorry.
I was gonna say maybe next time he can actually get you a deer, but that wasn't too kind of me.
You didn't know, James. That could be very hurtful.
Yeah, I don't know, and I felt bad.
James has been spending a couple weeks just really sad he didn't get a deer, and here's Tanner.
I have a lot of really good friends who love to hunt, and they're like, "That's how we get our meat for the year," and so I kind of feel bad. But as somebody who's really never hunted before, I did not spend my break hunting or doing anything. I hunted some deals online, got those, and that's really about it. That's my extent of hunting. Yeah.
I have a friend who claims to be an avid indoorsman. So, and Tanner, I hear you.
Tell us more about yourself.
It's not me. It literally is a friend of mine. It was a good. I'm the problem. It's me. It was a great couple of weeks. Had celebrated family with my wife's family. They're here in town, and that's just always just a blast. We won over $100 on lotto tickets between me and my wife.
Wow.
That's stocking stuffers for my in-laws. They always give us lotto tickets, so it's really the only time I really play the lottery. And we did a great job winning because obviously it was our talent that got us there.
That's how
So
gambling
that's-
works. Yeah.
Exactly.
So what
exactly.
are you thinking that whole time as you're like getting ready to scratch that lotto ticket? Like, what's going on in your mind? Like this could be it.
Oh, there was one ticket that the top was $100,000, and it was like a weird like bingo card thing where it was like pictures at the top, and you saw the pictures, and you had to match it down below in a rows, a bingo card kind of thing. I was one picture away on a row from $100,000.
Okay,
And
so
so-
you let's
What?
say you win. What does that change? What does that change?
Oh, that's a good question. Now, here's the thing. Chelsea and I actually, whenever the Powerball gets real high, especially if we're driving somewhere, we'll sit and go, okay, if we won, how would we do this?
Mhm.
Lump sum. Our
Yep.
church would get a new building. We would pay off houses, college debt, of our family. We'd immediately find it was funny. I was last time when it was like a couple months ago, it was so high, we were driving somewhere. And Chelsea goes, "Oh, you'd call this friend to be our money manager." And I said, "No, I want someone I can fire. I want a money manager that I have no relationship with. Like that would be my thing. Is like I need someone who I go, you're not managing my money well, and I can be cutthroat with them." But no, I mean it. I don't know what it would change. I mean, obviously, I'd be a ton cooler than I was before.
I'm buying the brand chips. I'm going
Yeah, watch
brand
out.
chips. We're getting
Watch out. No more Dr. Thunder in this house. No, but it's kind of fun. We we already spent our winnings. We bought a sound bar for our TV because we fancy now.
Nice.
Watch out. Yeah, no, it was just a good time. It was a little bit of a whirlwind. My family came through town over a weekend, and that was a blast having them in town. And it honestly, there was a really good time of just folks from church too. So we did Christmas Eve, which was really, I think, probably the best Christmas Eve service we've done as a church. And then Christmas Day we did at our house, and it was just a beautiful time of like worship and communion, but also a comedy of errors of having Christmas Day worship in your house. Like the dog was constantly getting in people's business, and the projection system was not working how we wanted. Yeah, it was hilarious. It was a good time.
This sounds like
So
a legit
what about
Christmas.
you, man? How's it been?
Okay, here's I have an important pastor theological question. With that being said, before I get into my life and my story and my woes, Ted,
Do you need me to call Pastor?
do you tithe your earnings when you win the lotto? Like you talk about that? Like I'm sure that soundbar costs $90, right?
Yeah, it did almost exactly $90.
How do you
So-
know that, Phil?
So the $10 go back to they won like $100, right? So does like the $10 go back to the church?
This is a good question, Phil.
It's important. I need to know this. We're all thinking this right now.
Phil, I
Now
bought
we
the
are.
orange juice in half and half for the coffee bar on Sunday. So
There you go.
Ooh, that is really
Yeah.
generous of you. That's good.
I mean, that's when Ted wins the lottery. Narrative Church receives the spoils. I mean, we do that every week, anyways.
It was orange
but
juice with pulp.
so it wasn't the name brand orange juice, but it was the nice HEB brand orange juice.
Okay.
Not that lame comes in a milk carton stuff. I'm talking the clear bottle. We got the good stuff this week.
We get it. You're fancy.
Sounds pretty
I
legit.
won the lottery, baby.
I'm a winner.
You can't hide that.
Okay.
Flaunt
Well,
that new money.
I'm just checking, because someone's got to keep you accountable, Ted.
Bill, I just love that, like, you just called me out on a live podcast to be like, you're giving to the Lord, right?
Well, we were all thinking that, Ted.
No, what I was thinking was,
wait
what
a
prayer
minute.
did you pray before you won? Because we all know that's how it usually goes.
Yeah, it's true. It's true.
Okay. All right. Okay. So you asked me a question, how I have been doing, and I feel comfortable to respond to this. A a lot has happened in the world. Christmas, my birthday, I know. But the biggest thing was, hey, Phil, how did you do for your fantasy football championship, right?
I was
And-
waiting.
Thinking.
I was
Okay,
waiting.
so I was going into about to repeat for my fantasy football championship, and it was all on that Bills Cincinnati game where Josh Allen was going to bring it home for me, and then the world stopped, right? And I feel comfortable talking about this now because of what happened with the whole Damar Hamlin,
Damar Hamlin.
going into, you know, the whole
Cardiac
tragic
arrest,
event,
yeah,
cardiac
yeah.
arrest, right? That paused the game, and I was down by, I don't know, like 12, 15 points or so, which means if probably it was going to finish because I had the best player in fantasy football, I was going to win the championship, and that was not the case because of what happened. So I ended up not winning the fantasy football championship, which is okay, grand scheme of life.
Well,
right?
but you don't have a like the commissioner of your league didn't go like, hey guys, when this game is finally finished, we'll add in the points.
But it's not going to finish though. The NFL canceled the game, so
Didn't
That-
I thought they played it the next day or something.
no.
Oh, okay.
So
No.
big controversy because like everyone's thinking like, what about my fantasy football championship team and all the bets that are in Vegas or whatever. We all had to pause, which was important to pause because it really doesn't matter the grand scheme of life. But for me, I didn't win back-to-back championships. I was a co-champion for fantasy football. So
Well, that's still a champion.
yeah,
No, it's
it
not.
is.
No, it's
Thank you.
not. You
Thank you,
tied.
Tanner. Thank you.
You
Thank
tied
you.
for first, which means
Thank
you are
you.
not first. You are tied for first.
No, it's true. It's true. So
First means I am here and nobody else is. Tied for first means there are two of us, two firsts, which make us
Listen,
tied.
If
Might as
I
you
feel
well be
are
second.
if you are in the NFL, sure, I agree. If you're playing fantasy football, like who cares?
Well,
you
NFL's
win?
still doing ties. They're still tying games. Which I'll make that.
But they're gonna
That frustrates me.
at the
Oh,
end
you
of the year,
tied?
They're gonna. But I would agree with that. Just finish the dang game. Like
The important
like,
thing though
I-
is,
in baseball, we don't quit. No quitters in baseball.
and they
I
should.
mean,
and
would you
they
be
should.
saying that if the guy actually passed away?
No,
No.
I'm completely talking about the ties. I'm talking
Okay.
about the ties, not at all about the Bills.
Okay, because we were all
Bengals
about to
game.
attack you on Twitter and
No,
your
no, no.
character
I'm
and who you
talking-
are.
I'm talking
So-
about ties in football.
But I think
Ties
the
in
big
football.
takeaway from that that game is kind of how everyone responded to what happened. I mean, if
Yeah.
I was on Twitter that night and I was kind of just watching, and everyone was talking about and saying like, pray for Damar, pray for Damar. And
Yeah.
there wasn't, and we talked in the past about thoughts and prayers or thinking of or sending well wishes and all that kind of stuff. But this was I think the one of the times where I realized a lot of people were saying, no, we are praying for this person. Like we are in dire need right now. Like there is life on the line. It's not like post gun violence where there has been somebody who is deceased. There is life hanging in the balance. And the response to that was like, let's get on our knees and pray. And there was even an analyst who prayed right on ESPN. I don't know if you guys saw that. He stopped and he prayed. I can't say his last name. It's like Orlowski.
Dan Orlovsky. Yeah.
Yeah. But he prayed on national TV, which was a really cool response and witness. And it was like, hey, how I am viewed right now doesn't matter. I know what to do when tragedy strikes, and that is to go to my God in prayer.
That's
And
pretty
that
tight.
was cool. And the good news is Damara's, I think he was released from the hospital today,
Yeah, he
Yeah.
went home today.
Oh, good.
which
Yeah.
is just absolutely wild. Absolutely wild.
Wow.
Which makes it everything okay for me to complain about now. And to
Yeah. Oh,
be
yeah.
able-
Yeah, it's safe to complain. Agreed.
Wait,
So-
so what exactly?
He had
do
a
you
heart
win?
attack. You lost a fantasy football league.
Say that again.
What like
Said
so? What
he-
exactly do you? Oh, me or Ted? Sorry.
Go, Katie. You go, Katie.
I just have a question because I'm a girl and maybe I don't know. I don't know if it's because I'm a girl, but I just don't know fantasy football. But what do you win if you win fantasy football?
It depends.
Is it
Great.
money?
Great question. I did
that
win
Well,
money.
you tie. Will you
I did-
tithe that money?
Thank you. There you go.
Mic drop.
10% of how much did you win, Phil?
That
You don't have to just-
co-championship was, I think, $130. That championship
Whoa.
would have been $260, because we're all kind of pitching. I think it was like $20 a person in our league. So, yeah, big deal.
Wow.
I have a lot to pray about of what I'm going to be tithing. So, yeah,
Yeah, $13.
130,
Big.
100, yeah, $13 exactly. So,
I mean, you can tithe 100%. The Lord never says you can't.
And
That's
you know
true.
what? I actually have a good idea of where that money could go to. Over the next several weeks, I think you could supply Narrative Church with some HEB orange juice. And that would be,
Hey,
I think that would be an
that's two-
excellent way.
2 weeks of nice HEB orange juice.
yes.
A full month of
Ooh.
cheap HEB orange juice. Just think
This
about
episode
it.
brought to you by gambling and orange juice.
I have a lot to pray about. So, there you go. But anyways,
Let's get into the topic because we have a Google Doc. The behind the scenes, a little imagination for
Ooh,
the
pulling
eye
back
there.
the
We have a Google
curtain.
Doc. Pull it back a little bit. We got a Google Doc with a lot of links that some of us have read through and others of us have not. But Phil, what are we talking? Let's just say there's been a lot that has happened in the world and
Mhm.
in our lives in the last 2 weeks. But there's been a couple of things that we kind of were texting about earlier. And why don't you just kind of clue us in on what we're talking about today? Big co-champion Phil.
yeah, there's a lot that the world is discussing and the world is disgusting, right? And I think what we decided to settle on as a crew was to talk about immigration, all right? I think there's a lot to be able to talk about, but President Joe Biden just went down to, was it El Paso just recently?
El Paso, yeah.
Yeah, yesterday, and was visiting the border for the first time in 2 years to see what is happening with this border crisis. We can say it's a border crisis because CNN actually declared it as a border crisis. So I guess if everyone's saying that it is, something's going on and something's going wrong with the border. And I think it's important for us to talk about because there's a lot of noise with this particular topic with record-breaking immigrants coming into the United States more than ever before. And now we have to remember this is a country that there's a lot of immigrants, including ourselves and our families that are in this country now due to immigration. But I think it's important for us to be able to talk about because there's a lot that is happening with this particular topic. So immigration is at a record high, more than ever before. Guys, what is your take with this everyday elephant in the room? I'm going to start with Ted first. No, I'm going to go with Katie. Ted talks all the time. So, Katie, what are your thoughts? No?
TED Talks all the time.
Okay, so well, all right, I have some thoughts. Well,
The people
I
want to hear
guess-
your thoughts.
yeah, I'm going to, we talked about just the polarizing views of the Democratic and Republican views on this. And I think there is, for me, my thought on this can seem kind of polarizing, to be honest. But at the same time, just like with everything we talk about, there's a tension. But my first reaction is that if I could relate this to people and just the protection of our country, boundaries are good, because you can't serve unhealthy things around you if you yourself is not, if you're not healthy, while at the same time we're called to outreach and to serve people. And I think the same thing is our country is not going to be healthy, is not going to have a boundary or a standard for living the way that we have always been able to live if we don't set a boundary, if we don't set limits, while at the same time, if we're healthy, then we can provide resources and help people that are suffering. And I think that's kind of the duality of it, in my opinion, where we need to set boundaries, but it's not that one is more important than the other. And I think that's what's happening is it seems like one side is elevating one importance, and the other side is the other importance. And I found, like, when even doing therapy, I did behavior therapy for a couple of years, and anything to be efficient and effective, it needs to have both sides. You don't modify or change an environment by just extinction. You do extinction and reinforcing at the same time to get the results that you need. And I think that's the same with anything. We need to have boundaries, and yes, we need to have an answer to serve these people that are suffering. Yes to both. And they're both equally important in order for it to be effective.
Okay, that's a good take. Ted, what about you?
You can change my mind if you need to.
No, I think, Katie, I'm gonna jump in a similar fashion to say I think the issue is not as much the border crisis as it is we have let politics become the central figure of immigration. Phil, like you mentioned, all of us on this call are here because of immigration, right? Or on this podcast, like, we're here because of immigration. Yep. I can tell you the places my ancestors immigrated into this country through, and where they came from. And to me, the bigger issue is not, should they come, should they not come? The answer is we are a country of immigration. That's one of the things I think that makes us great. The problem is we have not updated how we handle immigration to match what's happening in the world. And I think the issue we're running into is, to me, the bigger things are not should immigrants be coming into the country, but saying our outdated systems are not allowing a smooth running of how that works. And we saw that kind of on display in this visit, that President Biden comes down, and in the places he goes, they clear out all the homeless people, right? Mm-hmm. So the optics are, oh, look, everything's fine in El Paso. And now there's some tension in that too, because you look and you say, hey, anywhere he goes gets cleared out, right? The Secret Service isn't just going to let people hang out where he's going, but it's also one of those things. It looks a lot nicer if you show up on a clean street in El Paso. On the flip side, Greg Abbott met him at the airport, handed him a letter to say, here's all your failures on the border. But Greg Abbott has spent $20 million of Texas taxpayer money to bus immigrants around this country as, whether you want to call it a political stunt, a political message, whatever you want to call it. He has spent $20 million. And I wanted to make sure, I was like, that number seems insane.
Yeah.
But I found it from like 3 or 4 different sources to say he has spent that money to, some it's proving a point, some it's not. But that's a lot of money that could have, like Katie said, to say, if people are here, how do we care for them? That's $20 million that you could have hired more Border Patrol, that you could have trained Border Patrol to handle these situations, that you could have built temporary shelters
with them.
Yeah, I mean, that is $2 million that could have gone to nearly.
How much orange juice that is?
Who cares about separation of church and state? So I think
this is it's such a hard topic to kind of discuss. When I hear about immigration, and I hear what you're saying, Ted, it's almost as if it's like this is a great country for people to come to. We just don't know how to welcome them appropriately. And it's not like we are out of room. Y'all been to Montana? A lot of space there, right? Like, we have places for these people and communities for these people to enter into. But that process of going from one country to another country, like, it's just not, there's something wrong with the process. Is that kind of what I'm hearing too? Well, it's like we just don't have a good way of welcoming them home.
Yeah. And building a process to say, I would assume for the 4 of us, our ancestors are probably 2 to 3 to 4 generations removed being new to this country, right?
Mm-hmm.
But I think of people who are 1st and 2nd generation immigrants who are here and connecting and building lives. and to say there was a great ministry up in St. Louis called Christian Friends of New Americans, and it was a church that would open and just say it was an immigration hub for people coming from, not the southern border, but different places around the world. And St. Louis was a hub. And they did a great job just opening up for dinners, for English lessons, for some of those things. And I think those are the discussions we need to be having is, Tanner.
I think Ted might be cutting out a little bit. Is he cutting out for you guys?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
Sorry,
But
my
I think he
internet
was. I think he was saying that we were right. I think that's kind of what I
Yeah,
was hearing.
exactly.
No, you're
Exactly.
right. Like, yeah, that's what I'm. That's
No,
kind
I
of what I'm
like
picking up
Tanner's welcoming language is
Can I go back to Abbott's comment though? Spending $20 million shipping people to different cities. Obviously there's some political stunts with that, and that's something to
on. Wait,
be.
whoa, 1 second. Are you saying that politicians do things to get attention and to create news?
No, not at all. So
Okay, I just wanted to make sure. Just wanted to make sure. All right,
but
go
it's
ahead.
a significant number, right? And let's talk about that, because you have some of these cities saying, hey, why aren't why is the governor doing this, right? We are a sanctuary city. We would open our cities borders to allow anyone to come here, to live here, to be a part of this. And I think Abbott's like, great, I'm going to ship you to them. And obviously I'm going to make a political stunt about this. But, there's a point where if there's record number of people that are being allowed into into the borders, and I don't know how you necessarily feel about it, Ted, because Texas is your state. But I did see a tweet from a border officer, Chief Raul Ortiz, and this happened in December 12th, 2022. He said at one point there was over 16,000 people in his particular area, that there's different encounters, and there was $97 million worth of narcotics that was seized. And then it lists all the different things that were happening within this tweet. I mean, there are some safety issues that are happening. Now, granted, there's also innocent lives being trafficked through this. Like, hey, if you come across the border, you need to be able to take this amount of narcotics with you in order to make it happen. But there is something significant that is happening there, and there is a safety crisis. We got to figure something out. Granted, when
our immigration and border security one conversation or two conversations that are intertwined, and that's kind of because I think you're right, Phil. I think you're right. We have to talk about border security.
Yeah.
But I do think we have to make sure to say immigration and border security, while they share topics, are not always the same thing.
Yeah. So is it, from my understanding, are they, is it with border security capturing illegal immigrants, and then what they're doing is they're shipping these immigrants to these different cities? Is that what's happening?
So the best I can understand it, at these high crossing points, is once you cross, you're detained, right? If you've illegally crossed,
yeah,
you're detained. Or there are now tent cities that are popping up on the Mexico side of the border. And so now you have a lot of people not from Mexico, but who have walked or driven from Central or South America up into the border. And so what you're getting is a lot of people who are looking for a new life, and then criminal elements taking advantage of that process, either of the people or of the chaos.
Yep.
And so that's what I think the crisis is saying we haven't built a system to say people aren't stopping coming. And the drug cartels are seeing a situation they can take advantage of. Human trafficking, or seeing a situation they can take advantage of. And so there definitely has to be, and I think border states are bearing the brunt, especially Texas, Arizona, New Mexico, California, are bearing the brunt of this. And it's a lot easier to live further away and say, I mean, even living in Central Texas, I've been down to what we call the Valley, which is the Rio Grande Valley, the the southern border. It is everyday life for them down there. It's a very,
Yeah.
it's very real.
But I think those things are like intertwined together. Like we should be talking about both things.
Yeah, I just think we want to make sure we have an understanding that not every person trying to cross the border is a trafficker or a drug.
Oh yeah, for sure. I don't think that, because there's a lot of people that get taken advantage of, and
Right.
they're obviously looking for a new life and a new opportunity, and what a better place to come to the United States. And I think we need to figure this out. We need to figure out there's some great people that can cross these borders, that can do some exceptional things for our country. And so I want to be able to figure out something so that they can have a home and a place that is safe, and an opportunity to be able to help their family. So I think it is ultimately a good thing, but we still need to be able to figure out border control. And I think what's really interesting, and I think I had a warped view of this, right? When big bad orange man, President Trump, come into office and he said, we're going to build a wall and we're going to make Mexico pay for it. My first initial thought was, man, that's a pretty arrogant thing to be able to say. And well, probably because it was, but at the same time, there is something
Wait, whoa. Are you saying that a president has said something arrogant in the past?
I love how you keep calling us out for everything we say, but yes, I am saying that.
That's because the listeners that's because he has nothing else to contribute.
Oh, okay.
Correct.
Oh, got it.
Anyways,
Way to
keep
insert
going.
that in, Tanner. No, so they did that. It was such a horrible thing that they're building a wall. And I had some mixed views on that too, because it seems like we're creating these different lines. We're not allowing anything to happen, because there are some good illegal immigrants that come in that contribute to our country and have done some great things. And long story short, they stopped the wall, but now the Biden administration is resuming some wall construction again. So it's just like, man, it just doesn't make sense to me. I'm confused with all these things that are going on with these administrations, how they detain the people. Trump was detaining people and putting them in these places and like, look, they're in cages. But then the Obama administration was the administration that really kind of incorporated some of these detained sites. It's tough. It's confusing. It's hard. Immigration is something difficult to talk about.
Yeah. So Phil, are you for or against a wall being built?
I think I'm for being a wall being built. And I'm for legal immigration. I think we need to have more people come into our country and figure out ways to be able to legalize that. And we should be spending more money towards legalizing these people and creating a plan. So, because they're not going to be able to come to the country and really provide, but what is a good 5-year plan for someone who's entering into our country to receive assistance? We need to incentivize it for people coming in. We need to figure out some of these problems. I don't know. That's my gut reaction, but I also don't know a lot.
Well,
which is true. Yeah.
I think I've always kind of viewed the building of the wall as we don't want you here.
Totally.
And I think that's how probably maybe how most people view it, as we don't want you here. And maybe that's actually why it was built. But what if it is more so of we do want you here, but here is how you come here, right? Like we have made there's a better way. And if we can figure that out, and I am the last person who should probably speak on immigration because I don't know a lot. I don't know what's going on. But like if there is a way that we could do that, where we could welcome people into our country appropriately, and not only would it would like expedite the process of them being an established citizen of the United States, right? Where it's like, we see that you want to come. Let's find a way to make that happen. But I also know that, and this is not a knock on our government, this is just kind of the way it's set up. It's not set up for, I don't know, an expedited or a successful transition from one thing to the other. Like we've all gotten those letters in the mail where it's taken 3 different, 4-hour conversations on the phone to get half an answer. So,
yeah,
I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know. I think a wall's a safety blanket.
Say more.
What do you mean
I
by
don't
that?
wanna- I'm not cuddling
I
with
think
that.
I think if people want to come, they're going to buy a ladder. They're going to dig a tunnel. Now, obviously, you have, you patrol it, you do the best you can, but I think there's something to be said to say, how do we look and say, what are the best systems, you know, for this? And
Are there other alternatives that you would suggest?
I mean, there's beefing up the border patrol. There's building those kinds of things. The stretches of West Texas that some of these places are happening, like West Texas is big and vast, and putting a wall out there is, I mean, we were down in Big Bend, which is the national park down there, which is on the border, and had to drive to get our battery died, and so we jump started. We had to drive to the closest auto zone, which was 2 hours away. So the logistics of building along the border is a very fascinating idea. I don't know if it's feasible. I think it's an idea. It's one of the things we can do. It's one that you can see, right? Like saying we've beefed up, drone coverage and border patrol is something that you don't always see. You stack a bunch of shipping containers and say, "Here's our wall," and you go, "Boom, there it is." So
Yeah, and I think we're never going to solve it's people are going to do whatever it takes to commit a crime or to come over. And I think it's just making we can at least make it more difficult, for that to happen, even though it might not solve all the issues. Because what happens is if we just use patrol and we increase that, we're asking people to be our wall. We're asking our people to be the wall instead of, really doing something where we can at least set a boundary line where we can maybe make it more difficult for crime to come into the US, because I think the biggest thing that's happening in this is that there is the way of living here, the drug increase, the crime that's happening here. Now we have an unhealthy country, especially in certain parts of the country, with an increase of like drug intake because of this. And how are we, if we are not healthy, going to serve and help those around us,
Well, but the major drug issue we're having right now is with fentanyl, which started with pharmaceutical companies, not drug cartels. Drug cartels have now bought into it. But I think that's part of the process too, is saying we're going to find drugs if they come from south of the border or not.
Yeah, that's
right,
true.
either way. Yeah.
But you're not wrong, Katie. I having lived in Texas for a majority of my life, having been in a border state, no one seems to be finding a solution. It seems like the wall, putting we've had the state guard on the border for 6 months or something like that, and nothing seems to be working. And Katie, I think it goes back to what you said at the beginning, is saying we have to find solutions for saying there are legal ways to do this. We can't just say it's a free for all. There's rules, there's laws for a reason.
But what about the whole like catch and release thing? I mean, that seems, they get caught, we detain them for a little bit and then they're free to go because they have to appear for a court date. Why is it that they should just continue to be released in the United States?
I'd have to look up that law. I don't know what you're talking about.
Okay. Well, basically, when immigrants are detained, and the law is that they have a court date from a specific date, like 2 weeks from then, and they were supposed to appear to that, but most of them do not adhere to those laws, and they'll go to wherever they need to go next. I would do the same thing, right? Because I want to be able to have a chance in America, and it's not going to look good for me if I have to show up for that court date. I think what it comes down to is I just want, and again, drugs are still going to get into the country, like you said, Ted, but if there's a way to limit trafficking, illegal trafficking for children, for drugs, whatever that might be, you know, we should do that. I don't know how much the wall was going to cost with Trump, but I'm sure it's a lot less money than some of these $1 trillion packages that we've spent recently too. So it seems like we were arguing over billions of dollars, which I can't even imagine because I'll never even see anything like that compared to $1 trillion packages. So I don't know.
It depends on how your fantasy league goes next year.
It's true. It's true. Bet on P-Clop.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. It's a heavy topic. Most topics that we have on the show are pretty heavy and kind of difficult, like wading through mud, just kind of feeling it out.
Right. And it takes wisdom. You know, I think we have to be able to think and form thoughts around it on both sides and really develop, you know, being able to hear one another and listen to understand, you know, and both sides. I'm talking about like Republican, Democrat parties. I think there has to be an element where we listen for the sake of understanding so that we can come up with real solutions. But easier said than done.
Oh yeah, and then even with Pew Research, they're talking Republicans and Democrats want a solution for immigration. Like everyone wants something like a better outcome. Problem is no one can really agree upon what that outcome should look like. And that's probably why even it's hard for us to talk about it. It's sticky, it's hard. It's like, you know, Ted, you bring up a really good point, and then it just follows up with another good point. It's just like, man, this seems impossible to deal with.
And I think it comes back to the political quagmire, right? Because Phil sent us an article on Pew Research and numbers, and it's like a lot of the real compassionate solutions to immigration actually are majority Democrat and Republican lean towards saying, yeah, we want this compassionate solution. And that's the cynical side of me says, yeah, but then if immigration gets solved, then politicians don't get to use it as their soapbox, whichever way you go. And that's part of the problem we experience in our country is if something gets solved, then you can't use it to your advantage anymore.
Yeah.
So I think this, you know, this feels like a topic we'll come back around to. Like this feels like a start. You know, so it's probably something that's going to be in the news again. We'll talk about again. And I loved where everybody came from on it. Tanner, the welcoming language you used, Katie talking about the healthiness of boundaries, to say boundaries are actually very healthy for humanity and who we are as people. So how do we make a healthy boundary and not just a broken one? And Phil coming in to look and say, yeah, there's got to be solutions, and how do we find solutions? I'm grateful to have talked with you guys about it. Would love to hear what folks say about it. You can always check out the YouTube video again. It'll go up on Anchor FM and to Spotify and Apple Podcasts, wherever you listen to it as a podcast. You can check it out there. We did ask that if you could subscribe or rate the podcast so we can keep getting connected with other folks. We will be back again next Monday at 4:00 Central, 5:00 Eastern. This has been Everyday Elephants. Thanks for joining us.